during the last session to uh, things which we need attention. So I'll really rush through the story, which in any way is coming to an end. After we had seen that after Shalya had been killed by Yudhishthir, and here you must notice who is killing whom. Shalya stands for deceit, Yudhishthir stands for truth. Truth kills uh, deceit. Similarly, if you recall greed was killed by Nakul. Similarly, Arjun and Karn. Karn is the ear that is turned toward the external outside world, whereas Arjun stands for the ear that is turned toward the inner world. Then comes Bhim. He is the yearning and perseverance. He is responsible for killing all the demonic traits which we have. So killing से itself पता लग जाता है कि who what is the that metaphor stands for. And in fact, if you see, all the metaphors are so well connected with each other that it's not that in one place it means something, in some other place it means something else. Anyway, coming down to the story, once Shalya was also killed, then Duryodhan, he thought that there's nothing left now and he decided to run away. Of course, there are two other stalwarts who were still there, three of the Kripacharya, then Ashwathama and Kritivarma. And these three people advised Duryodhan that you should not run away. You much rather, as a Kshatriya, you stand there and fight, either get killed or kill others. But he had lost his will and this thing. So he decided to run away and he went and hid under a lake. Whatever most of the army of the Kauravas had already been destroyed, and whatever little was left, the remnants, mostly injured, too weak, and too now demoralized, they decided to surrender en masse. So the remaining troops, they all surrendered to the Pandavas. But when this Duryodhan went and hid himself under the lake, the Pandavas started looking for them, and Krishna eventually found them. And then it was that place, the Yudhishthir started taunting Duryodhan. He said, "Now come upon now and start fighting. You can't run away. You'll not be allowed to run away anyway." So he said, "Anyway, I'll give you a choice. You can fight with any one of our brothers, and you can choose the weapon of your choice." But this Duryodhan, he was so angry and so jealous of the Pandavas and now so demoralized that he did not realize the kind of opportunity that Yudhishthira had presented to him. And he said, again, out of hatred for the Pandavas, especially Bhim, he said, "Since none of you can fight with me, I'll fight with Bhim with the mace." Now that was the strength that was his uh, Duryodhan's strength, but it also the strength of the Pandavas. Had he selected some youngster between Nakul or Sahadev and told them that you'll fight with the mace, Duryodhan would certainly have won. But he didn't realize the opportunity. And Krishna, when he heard this, he immediately berated uh, Yudhishthir and told him, "You don't understand the implications of this. Suppose he chooses this." But luckily for the Pandavas, Duryodhan decided to fight with Bhim and with the mace. Now, when Duryodhan came on to the surface of the lake on the land, and he started fighting there, and nothing that Bhim could do would hurt him because, if you recall, his body had been strengthened completely from top to toe, excepting for the place below the waist, which he had covered it by banana leaves when he went nude before his mother. So barring that place, but all the blows that were being hurled at him were on his chest and above the waist. So he was sort of immune, and whatever he did, nothing happened to him. Duryodhan, on the other hand, whenever he struck Bhim used to be really hurt. When the battle was seemingly going in favor of Duryodhan, then Krishna loudly spoke to Arjun and said, "Arjun, do you think Bhim remembers his vow of breaking Duryodhan's thigh?" Now this was heard by Bhim, and immediately he realized what is to be done, what has to be done. So with one blow, he hit him on the below the waist, on his the pelvic region, and destroy and broke all his thighs and pelvic region. And as he lay there writhing in great pain, Yudhishthir looked at him with pity, uh, him with scorn, but Krishna looked at him with indifference. Now, Duryodhan, if you recall, stands for material wealth, and leg stands for moving away or running away. But the thigh stands for uh, productivity. I mean, reproduction. Especially the left thigh is concerned with reproduction, and that is what he had. That is the thigh that he had patted upon when he told Draupadi to come and sit upon it, and that was the thigh he had broken it. Bhim had broken this time. So this metaphor means that that with perseverance and yearning, you can you can take control of the sexual urges which are there and completely destroy them altogether. Anyway, once he was down like this, and he was lying there, in great pain and helpless. Ashwatthama, when he came to know that Duryodhan also, Ashwatthama's father, Dronacharya, if you recall, was also killed by deceit. When Yudhishthir went and told him, "Your Ashwatthama is dead, not your son, but the elephant." So it was a deceit which was implied. And when this Dronacharya threw all his weapons and sat down to meditate, it was that time that Drishtadyumna came and chopped off his head. That was still, the anger was still great, and he was still seething with anger. And when he heard that Duryodhan also had been killed like in the same manner by deceit, by being hit below the belt, then he was very, very wild. And he said, okay, I'll also cheat and I will also destroy the Pandavas when they're least expecting me. So he decided that he'll kill them at night. And he kept on working himself, working over and over himself, till he really became very furious. As the night advanced, his anger kept on increasing till a time came that he decided, okay, now is the time to go there. So he went and spoke to Duryodhan, who was still lying, writhing on the battlefield because he was not dead yet. So, and they could not remove him because of his condition. So Ashwatthama said that I'm going to destroy them, my king. Don't you worry. When I come back next, I'll bring you this good news. Ashwatthama, Duryodhan, by this time was in very bad shape. Nevertheless, he said, I appoint you commander in chief of my army. Of course, by this time there was no army, there were just three people left. Ashwatthama was one, Kripacharya was second one, and Kritivarma was third. These three only were left. Anyway, when the night had fallen and the Pandav camp were very relaxed and they were all asleep, then Ashwatthama went there quietly alone with these two other people. And as the commander in chief, he told them that you guard the exit from this camp. Both of you are guard at uh, uh, both the gates to be guarded. One can be here and the other can be there. Now I'll go and I'll destroy all of them. In spite of better advice from Kripacharya and Kritivarma that he should not do that, he said, "No, I've made up my mind and that's what I'm going to do." So anyway, since he was uh, declared the commander in chief, the other two obeyed his order. They they stood there at the gate, at the entrance to the camp, at a strategic position so that nobody could escape. Then he went inside the camp and started searching for Drishtadyumna, who had killed his father. So when he went there, he was lucky. He came to Drishtadyumna's camp, and while Drishtadyumna, Draupadi's brother, was still asleep, he killed him while he was still asleep. Then he started looking out for the five Pandavas. He was in luck. He found five people sleeping in the tent, assuming them to be the uh, five Pandav brothers. He slew them even as they kept sleeping while they were still asleep. Then, having killed these two, he set the whole camp in fire. And as the night kept on advancing, he kept on killing spree. And he kept on killing and killing. And he set the whole camp on fire so that nobody escaped there. Toward the end of the, you know, killing spree, by the time it had, the dawn had started breaking, and his temper had also come down. And in any case, when he felt that he had killed enough, he decided to. But by that time, he had in fact set the whole camp on fire and everybody had been dead. What he did was, he went to Duryodhan and told him, I've killed all the Drishtidyum and I've killed five Pandav brothers. But by this time, they had discovered Kritavarma and Kripacharya. They discovered that they were not the five Pandav brothers, but they were Draupadi's children. When Duryodhan came to know about this, he was very sorry. He said, what was the point in killing these children? They have not done me any harm. Anyway, then nothing can be done. He remained in great pain, and then with that he breathed his last. When Duryodhan was gone, uh, this Ashwatthama disappeared from there. When and the five Pandavas and Krishna, next morning when they came over, they had gone over to Satyaki's place on Krishna's advice to spend the night there. When they came back next morning, they found that everybody had been dead. They were very angry with Ashwatthama when they learned that Ashwatthama had come and killed everybody at night. They decided to search for him and, and kill him also. They located him at the sage Vyasa's, ashram, where sage Vyas was there, along with several other sages. And there, when this Ashwatthama saw these five Pandavas coming again, he was again filled with anger, and he heard his Brahmastra, the most powerful weapon which he had. And when he now this was a weapon which was very very powerful. So Krishna immediately told Arjun, "You take off your Brahmastra and fire it in against this, because this is the only thing that can destroy that or can hold him in check." So Arjun heard his Brahmastra. Now the sages who were there, they became very, very alarmed. They said, these two of them, these two Brahmastra, they'll destroy the whole world. So they requested Arjun and Ashtama to use their better sense and recall their weapon. While Arjun managed to recall it, uh, Ashwatthama, who did not have the know-how of recalling the Brahmastra, he let it be redirected the Brahmastra toward Uttara's womb. Uttara was the uh, you know wife of Abhimanyu, and she was bearing a child. And when this Brahmastra went there, it destroyed that fetus in her womb. But Krishna, who was there, immediately infused new life, and and that child was later on born, and he was called Pariksha. Anyway, when this had happened, when Uttara's son was to be destroyed, these people were very still angry, and they managed to catch hold of him. But and they took him to Draupadi. Draupadi, by this time, she realized the price that she had she had to pay for keeping her hair open. If you recall, uh, she had she had sworn that I will not tie my hair until the the Duryodhan and Dushasan, they were taken to task, and they were killed, which means that they had to go to war. And although Krishna had told her that the war means large-scale destruction, the kind of which you can't even imagine, but she didn't realize it that way. Now she had become wiser. So, and by this time, her temper had cooled. So she told her husband, "No, you cannot kill Ashwatthama because he is Guru's son, and you would be doing a great injustice to your Guru, and you'll be dishonoring Brahmins also. So that not should not be done." Anyway, So they spared him. But Krishna told him that, look, he, you can't in any way kill Ashwatthama because he has got a boon of immortality from Brahma and he cannot be killed. But what you can do is, on his forehead, there's a money there, a jewel there, which that is a priceless jewel, and you can take it out from him. So just like uh, Karn, he had his golden kavach, which was a golden natural armor. So also this money on his forehead was be, had become a natural part of his body. So this was him. He took out his knife and removed that money from his forehead and gave it to Draupadi. He said, you can take this. Draupadi said, this thing will only be, this is such a priceless jewel. It's of the rightful place is with the king. And she gave it to Yudhishthir. There are all little bit of metaphors are there. I'm not going through it because there are other things which I want to do there. Anyway, now with this thing, virtually the story comes to an end. Now, there's some important things which is, especially Shivi had asked for, and Vinita also had asked for it. So that's what I'm going to take this time. So there are three things are there which I want to share, which I want to share last time also. I'll do that this time. One is ego, the second is dharma, and the third one is karma. And Shiva had also about us self-love. All these four things I'll be covering. Now, first thing, most important is ego. What are the one of the many faculties which we have there in our in part of our human form? And just like we have got mind, that's one faculty. We have got intelligence, that's another faculty. Then we have got what do you call it? All sensing faculty. We all the sense organs, five sense organs, and five senses. So these is the sensing faculty. Similarly, there are several faculties there, and ego is one of the faculties, along with survival instinct. That's another faculty. And all these faculties have a particular role to play. And the main function of the ego has two main functions, or rather two things which It does. At the moment that ego comes up, the first thing which it does is it usurps the power of everybody else, of the power of, you know, doing, acting. So henceforth, it is all the action that is performed by the body mind is by the ego. That is the one thing which it does. The second thing which it does is that it removes all your past identity and past your memory. And since your past identity and memory are removed, he superimposes an identity which it creates. Both these things we'll discuss. Once these things is clear, then we'll come down to karma and thereafter dharma. Now, as far as actions are concerned, actions normally should be directed by our guna. You know that we've got we are actually three things. One is we are a part of the purush. When purush interacts with prakriti, then over a tiny fragment or a part of purush called the atman, over this the prakriti generates a form. The prakriti generates a form, and this form it can be of man, animal, bird, tree, whatever. It can be rock, or it can be air, it can be water, it can be sun, moon, planet, anything, any form. And this form has a certain property, and since this is the form which we have you know built by prakriti. So initially there are we can have only two identities because basically everything in this universe is made out of just two things. One is purush, that is the atman, and the other is prakriti. So only these two identities we can have, and the identity from purush is that of the real thing because this is permanent. whereas the identity which you obtain from Prakriti is not permanent. So that's why our identity of the Atma, that is supposed to be the prime uh, uh, identity. However, since we have a form, we have a human form, the identity which we get from human form is our second identity. The third identity is which we get from our role which we are playing. The role which we play is on account of the uh, the ego. As I told you, that ego, it is faculty, and that faculty takes upon the karta. It becomes the one which is assumes all the uh, administrative direction and administration management of all action. It takes over the role from Purush as well as Prakriti. And henceforth, this ego is the one who will be directing everything. So, so how does this ego from where does this ego come in? This was a question I was asked by one of the participants in another group, and they said that this gentleman said that initially, where see, all ego comes in, because of birth and rebirth. But first time, whenever this soul would have come in, that was all absolutely clean and pure. So when did this? How can ego be mounted, or rather associated with an absolutely pure, uh, pure being or pure whatever? उसका आंसर ये है कि that when the child is born, the child is a pure ego. There's zero ego in that, and this thing it will come repeat at many places also. The child, when it is born, it has zero ego, and but it is subjected to a lot of impressions. These impressions are taken and uh, and based upon these impressions, we either the child expresses a like or a dislike. These likes and dislikes then are transferred into desires. These desires are transferred into action for fulfillment of the likes and dislikes. And after action, these actions, when they become are repeated number of times, they become habit, and these habits then they become your character. This character is there in the form of guna, of properties. So that is so. What does the ego do, or ego, and what is karma? Of course, we'll come to that little later. What the ego does, that it results in properties, guna, which is really ego also is a property of the or a faculty of the and is as real as mind or intelligence, and it is part of prakriti. So it is as real as prakriti or any other faculties which we have in our body mind. So this ego जो है वो direct करता है, and when it is directing it, it takes upon ownership of all the act. So whatever is happening now because of the ego, not because of uh, Prakriti or the Purush, which is what it should have been. Anyway, apart from this identity, the second thing is taking over the ownership. Ownership, ownership. How does it start? Normally, in normal cases, it is the child. When it is born, it is subject to what is called that survival instinct. The survival instinct is another package is there which comes at the time when the form is born. It may be that survival instinct is not only for humans, but it is there in the case of animals and birds and everything else also, how to survive there. And normally all the survival happens as per the direction of the survival instinct which is inbuilt, or it happens as per the properties of the nature of that form which is there. That's what they call guna. So all the action that should have been directed normally should be by the guna or through its survival instinct. Of course, at the base of all these things is our true identity. That's of the Atma. And normally, the Atman should really speaking temper all our actions. But the Amkar or ego, it superimposes itself upon our survival instinct. And because it superimposes itself upon our survival instinct, whatever action it does, it it may appear as if it is coming from survival. But whereas survival is only need based, ego on the other hand is want based. That this is the major difference between that. So in survival, for example, when an animal, you see an animal, he goes and kills another animal. It is not that he's killing it wantonly. He just he's hungry. So in order to go there and satisfy his hunger, he has to kill those animals. As soon as his hunger is satisfied, he's no more going to kill that animal or have anything to do with that animal. That is the main difference between you know need survival based action and ego based action. Because of ego, there are a lot of things, negative things which may appear from human point of view, but from survival point of view, it is very very right. For example, if you see a carcass lying there, an animal will go there, immediately it will start feeding on that carcass. It won't bother. Then it may have so many siblings are there, so many parents or whatever, mother may be there, or even the father may be there. But each one is on his own, and all of them are bent upon filling their hunger, satisfying their hunger. So they're exceedingly selfish in that way. Also, if you see that, but they are not greedy. They are not greedy. Secondly, they may have to fight with each other a little bit in order to get their share. So they become a little aggressive. So being greedy, being little aggressive, being selfish, these are all traits which come out of survival. But the same traits, when they come out of ego or ahamkar, they are magnified, and then they become a negative trait because they are backed by greed. And whatever is backed by greed, it is in excess. You don't need it. If you feed food, you can take as much as you want, but because of greed, you kill more animals or whatever, take and more. So greed is the one which is the happens because of ego. Now, but ego has its advantage also when it is used for positive in the positive sense. In the positive sense, it gives you self-confidence, it gives you drive and enthusiasm, and these are things that all emerge from the ego. You've got ingenuity, you've got creativity to overcome obstacles, and courage and boldness. So these are properties which are there. These are positive properties. So it is not that ego is all bad. Ego is also good. So when you go in an unknown situation, and there you are able to establish yourself, that happens because of your ego. The self-confidence which you have got is really speaking coming from ego. If you recall, Gandhi, Arjun's weapon, the most powerful bow which was there, is self-confidence. So, hence, although Arjun did not have any ego, nevertheless, the Gandhi is the weapon which is self-confidence. In Arjun's case, his uh, ego has been eliminated, and and all his functions were carried out by the self. We'll come to that. Self-love mein aata hai wo. So all the actions were being carried out by the uh, the ego in normal case. But when in case of Arjun with Gandhi, the positive traits also of the ego were were emerging from the his self. Uh, so we have got three identities, and it is these three identities they give us our dharma also, which will come there. These three identities and three tasks which will perform. The three tasks which are performed, one is normally out of the role which we are playing. The second one is from the form that we are there, a human form. And the third one is because we are divine. So these are the tasks that should happen. But The ego is one who it assumes the role of the karta. Those people who are studying the Gita, they would have said, you would recall everywhere Krishna says, you forget the karta, don't be a doer. This is what he means, that since in normal cases, the ego, we all, in normally in 100% of cases, all our actions are controlled by the ego. That ego is the one that takes on the role, and that takes on the role of the karta. Whereas Krishna keeps on telling that forget about this thing, and that ego should not be allowed to take over that role. Anyway, then we come to karma. What is karma? Just as in case of ego or ahamkar, there are two functions for there. So also in case of karma, karma is the law of action. This is very important role. Karma has been designed and dharma also has been defined in so many ways. Karma के लिए कहा जाता है, it is action, reaction, whatever, which is true, of course. But karma really is the law of action. What is that law of action? The law of action is that you are responsible for your action, which means that you will reap as you sow. If you plant a lemon tree, a lime tree, you can't expect mangoes to come out of it. Which means if you do a good job of a good deed, then its repercussions will be good also. And you are going to be blessed with happiness. If you do a bad deed, then the repercussions of that bad deed will also be bad, and you'll get demerit, you'll be subjected to a lot of hardships and unhappiness. Now, secondly, the second part of this thing is that all your accounts have to be closed there. You cannot go away after committing a particular act, good or bad. It is like this, suppose you have to give an analogy, you are going through a forest. Now, when you're going through a forest, you find that is a very thick forest, evergreen forest, it is very, very thick. Moving one step is difficult. But you've got some kind of a magic sword, and you are able to chop off all the trees, the vines, the bushes that come in that place. You keep on clearing that jungle, and as you keep on moving around, that is one way to traverse that jungle. The second is, since it's a large area, since it's a very large jungle and you have to go across, so you'll need to take rest. So a rest somewhere in between. So what you can do is, while you're clearing this thing, and while clearing the jungle, it is kind of wanton destruction. You don't have to make a very wide road, but you still make keep on chopping here, chop there, chop here, thoughtlessly keep on chopping. That's one way. The second way is that while you're chopping, all right, you're also building a shelter where you can rest. And along with the shelter, maybe you're clearing a patch of land where you can quickly grow something, and which will be useful for you. That is the second way. The third way to traverse the jungle would be to to push aside all the things all the plants and bushes that come along you, in front of you, and negotiate yourself in such a way that you don't harm the jungle, you don't destroy anything, and in fact, you don't even leave your mark. No footprints are left there. So that is the third way. There's yet a fourth way. If you find in a particular part of jungle that there are not enough, what shall I say, uh, animals are there and birds are there who don't have enough to eat, then you, out of compassion for them, you keep on planting fruit trees. Like for example, fig trees. Figs are very popular among the birds and the animals. And the monkeys, they will, wherever fig trees are there, they'll go there. Birds, of course, will go there. But they not only the monkeys will eat, they'll keep on dropping this on the floor. So the deer, etc., and deer, rabbits, and a lot of other animals also benefit. So you can keep on planting fig trees and other useful things, plant trees, which will have benefit to the forest and the forest dwellers. So these are the four ways of moving through the forest. These four ways corresponding to the first two, for example, when you're chopping the forest, that corresponds to doing some bad deeds. Karma, it's just called karma. What is karma? So karma is the law of action. But karma is really means any kind of action that you do, it leaves a reaction there. And that reaction is recorded in the memory, not only in our memory, but almost also in the cosmic memory. They what they call the Akashic record. So, and whatever little we do, even if you throw a small pebble in a pond, that pebble will leave ripples all over, and those ripples can be noted and recorded. And this is what karma does also. That a record of it is maintained there. So you have got four kinds of karma there. One is a bad karma or karma, and the second one is good karma. But both these leave their mark, and for which, according to the second law, you'll have to either suffer for all your bad deeds, or you have to get the benefit and enjoy it. But in either case, you can leave only after it consumes these karmas have been consumed. That is how the this what we say we are subject to birth and rebirth according to this law. The third law is the third way you can traverse is by without disturbing anything in the forest. You just push aside everything. You don't hurt anything, and you move away in such a manner that nobody can even come to know that you've traversed it. That is really speaking dharma. When you don't leave any mark, that really speaking is dharma. When you don't leave any mark. And the fourth one is what they call when you do a kind of karma, what they call akarma. See, there are one is a vikarma and akarma. Vikarma is one in which you leave no mark. That is what they call sometimes non-action. And inaction is one in which you will do kind of deed which will destroy your past karma. Suppose you've done bad karma or good karma, and those good karma or bad karma is going to result in something, and you will have to wait till you have exhausted it. If you want to expedite it, the only way to expedite it is by doing a karma. That means destroying your all past karma. That can be done by, if you recall, we had mentioned earlier also, by four kind of, the action has to be have four properties. Number one, you don't take doership of the act. It means you work out of your gunas or better out of your atma. They should be the atma should be directing everything. And the second one is that you should have no selfish motive. Whatever you're doing should be for the benefit of the other. As for example, when you're passing through the forest, you're not planting, you're not trying to create a farm, but you're trying to plant such trees, such fruit trees that are benefit to the residents of that forest. So that was the part of the, akarma, so that you're able to chop it. And third part of this thing is that you should have no desire for any predetermined result. If you don't have any desire for predetermined result, then whatever comes out of it, it will be acceptable to you. And fourth one, of course, is that you are doing it wholeheartedly, putting in wholehearted effort in the form of sort of seva. That means you're doing it as for the benefit of the uh, others, not for there's no such motive, not for you. So if you have got these four things, then the action that results from this not only does not leave a mark, it in fact goes to wipe off all your past karma. So that is the uh, this is the karma. Then comes dharma. What is dharma? Dharma is really speaking the law of being. Being, see, in case of there can be three things. One is the inert subject like rocks or water or air. Take water, for example. Let's say it's in a lake there. Now that water will remain there in the lake forever. If nothing going to happen, if nothing happens externally, nothing done. Of course, it's a different matter that it is subject to evaporation. Let's assume for the time being that there's no evaporation. Then that water in the lake will remain as it is. It does not exercise any of its own actions. On the other hand, if let's say we have had a slight earthquake, and because of the earthquake, the bed of the lake has been tilted, then water will flow out of that lake, and it will go, it will from, I mean, it will travel downstream. That is the property of the water. That if it's on a slope, then it will travel downstream. A lot of people, including Swami Chinmayananda, he stresses on this aspect of dharma. He says everything has a certain property. Because that property, it is what it is. Otherwise, it will, if it does not have this property, it may look like water, but it's not water. That's how he explained it. But actually, in my opinion, humble opinion, it is not so. Dharma is when you just are, when you just be what you are. And in that case, what does it mean? It means that I am a human being. I have to act like a human being. What does acting like a human being mean? I should not act like an animal. You are selfish, etc., or you are aggressive. You are being, uh, you corner everything for yourself. So these are traits which are not desirable. For human beings, we should be governed by human values. What are those human values? Uh, Satya, Dharma, Shanti, Prema, and Ahimsa. These are the five values are there, which means truth, righteousness, peace, non-violence, and love. These five are called human values. So all your actions should emerge from the human value. But even more than that, they can then if these emerge from human value, then that is called sadharan dharma. Every human being has got that portion of a dharma. And this sadharan dharma or manav dharma is the dharma that we have to follow. And all our actions should be governed by the thing. That they are unfortunately not governed is another issue, but they should be governed. Then we have got a divine identity, like I mentioned, our identity which comes from our Atman. The Atma has got only one property, and that is love, unconditional, non-judgmental love, all encompassing. So when that is superimposed, when that is the basis of all our actions, then that is called divine this thing. And that is our param dharma. Our first prime dharma is to love everybody, to become love, not to love everybody, to become love. Once we become love, that is our prime dharma. Until such time as we become love, we are still exploring it. So our prime dharma becomes our effort or sadhana to, to realize what we are. That becomes the prime dharma. Then all the actions that emanate out of our prakriti, out of our human form, that becomes our mana or sadharan dharma. And then there's a third kind of dharma that comes from the various roles that we play in life. Now, in the good old days, when this transfer, when this categorization was done, they said Manu, he categorized into four things, four worlds: Brahmin, Kshatri, Vaishya, and Shudra. Along with this, the ashram in which we were there, these two together, they form what we call our Swadharma. In modern time, this Swadharma is not only limited to our four varna, but whatever be the profession that you've got, you may be a doctor, you may be an engineer, you may be a guard, you may be an artist, you may be a dancer, you may be chef, you may be a carpenter, you may be mason. Each one of these have got a certain duties attached with it. But dharma is not duty. Dharma has to be with tempered with human values. When your dharma is tempered with human values, then that dharma becomes swadharma, our own personal dharma. If it is not tempered with human values, then it will remain duty, and then we can say, I don't have to go into the Jallianwala incident in detail because I'm sure we all know what the Jallianwala Bagh incident is, where unarmed civilians, including women and children, were sitting there. And the soldiers went there, and at the orders of their general, they shot them and killed them all. That was not a dharmic act, that was a very violent and that was a dharmic act. So that is what dharma is. That when the action emerges your from human value, then that becomes swadharma. Better would be that not only it emerges from our human form or human value, but it emerges from our divinity, Atman. And when it emerges from our Atman, then even so-called enemies, they will not look like enemies because that is the what emerges from ourself or Atman is pure love, unconditional, non-judgmental, all-encompassing, and this is thing which this kind of love disarms everybody and completely embraces and encompasses whoever is the other, so that they also become they are affected to such an extent that they too become love. To be is therefore what they call dharma. If I am a human being, I must act like a human being. If I am a uh, tiger or lion, I should act like a tiger or lion. If I'm let's say, a fish or a bird or a horse or whatever, then if I play that role to perfection, then that is dharma. So these are three things which I wanted to share with you, and because these things they come over and over again, and it's a little confusing. So the simplest definition of what is karma is that it's the law of action. What is dharma is the law of being. Just be what you are. In fact, being what you are. Then Shivi had asked self-love. The self-love, if you recall, I put a little bit of a video page. I posted on the site. I hope you've gone through it. Now, in that, that fellow tries to explain what self-love is, but he doesn't understand what self-love is. That's not self-love. Self does not mean he has assumed that self to be the body-mind. Body-mind is not yourself. The self is the ultimate, the Atman which is there. When you love yourself, then uh, uh, that is self-love. What is the meaning of love yourself? Just to be yourself. Be yourself again. Being yourself is the simplest and the easiest form of self-love. What I'll do is here, Shivi, for your benefit, I will read it to you. Read this from I Am That, Nisargadatta Maharaj. It's a this book, in fact, I will recommend, I don't know whether you can see this on the screen. This is a book. I'll recommend that all of you, at least those who are really serious about knowing who are you, just go through it. It is the finest book I've come across, much better than anybody else, and it is condensed. It is little, uh, the questions that it's all in question answer form, and hundreds of questions have been asked, and hundreds of questions has been he has answered there, and among them, one of them is self-love also. An infant knows its body, but not the body-based distinction. It means when the child is born, it knows that it is conscious that it is a body, but it does not distinguish between one body and another body. All of them are the same to the child. It just conscious and is happy. After all, that was the purpose for which it was born. The pleasure to be is the simplest form of self-love. The pleasure to be is the simplest form of self-love. So that's what I mentioned. Is धर्म जो है self love आ जाता है. And in fact, enlightenment is also that. Just be what you are. If you are what you are, then that is the stage of that is called enlightenment. The pleasure to be is the simplest form of self-love, which later goes into love of the self. Be like an infant with nothing standing between the body and the self. Now, between the body and the self, we have got our mind, we have got our ego. Primarily, we've got our ego, then we have got our mind. All these things, they are the ones they distract you. They cast a uh, cast a blanket or a covering over yourself, and so that you are not able to realize what you are, and you start acting as per your ego. You say this ego is the one which takes you away from self-love, and the ego really thinks that makes you think, not think, makes you think that your body-mind is a self. And then you act from body-mind, then you act in a very selfish manner. So that is not self-love. It's not that with your body you may be planting, wanting to do great deeds. For example, you may want to build a hospital, but that hospital will be all out of ego. So that's not self-love. However, it may appear that you are doing good deed, but doing good deed is not self-love. Self-love is when you are just being whatever you are. That is self-love. That is dharma. That is enlightenment also. You have assumed love. Love is not what you have written there, Love to jo tum keh rahe ho, that's infatuation. Infatuation is selfish love. It's a kind of transaction. In all of them, in all the 4, 5 questions which you asked, 3, 4 questions you ask is greed, how is greed and detachment and love. Now there कि ग्रीड के साथ डिटैचमेंट लव नहीं आता है लव है तो और कुछ है नहीं लव है तो इनफैक्ट कुछ नहीं है you cannot have greed there. Now detachment also comes in. If it is love, then detachment, of course, it becomes irrelevant. That it is only when you're enjoying something through your ego, that is the time when everybody tells you that you be careful and don't get attached to it. But that is selfishness. And whatever in our life, whatever we do is out of our selfishness. It's a kind of transaction. You give me this, make me happy, or give me love, and I'll give you something. So that's a transaction. And that, yes, that is affected by greed, explained by you. What is the relation between love, greed, and detachment? Don't we love anything or anybody for our own needs? Of course you. Unfortunately, that's what we do. That's what we should not do. This is a transaction. You give me this, I'll give you that. It's a business deal. तो जो तुम कह रहे हो सारा business deal है. In this business deal, there's no question of love. It is just a transaction. So you have to, if we are to love without seeking anything for ourselves, then can it be sustained? If it is love, it will be sustained. Love is only giving, 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 nothing else. Love is not infatuation. Infatuation may you'll want something, you'll give something, and you'll take something. So you say, I'm giving you love, now you give me something else. So that, yes, it is subject to greed. It is subject to all kinds of vices and wickedness. But that's not love. The same, and this kind of thing is there repeated in all your other questions also. We love for the sake of our needs. No, you cannot love for the sake of that's not love. If you love for the sake of needs, then that's a business love. That's not business. You call it love, but it is not love. It's a business deal which you're taking. When we are detached, can we give love freely? If you can give love freely, then only you can be detached. Follow genuine love अगर जो है, so it is unconditional, non-judgmental, and all encompassing. What is the meaning of unconditional? It means when you give something, you don't expect anything from the other person. Then if you give love, then it is non-judgmental. You are not going to say, no, no, is it good hai, wicked hai, bad hai, he had harmed me, or he doesn't harm me, he doesn't deserve it. All these kind of judgments, they don't come into the picture. You will give them whatever, if it is pure love, then that is how it will be. Then there's no enemy. There's nobody other than you. Then there's no question of giving something to somebody else because you are giving, there's only you and you're giving to yourself. So that's why उसमें कोई demand और supply का सवाल नहीं होता है. Is there? Give me there. Vani wanted to know, please cover the power of discrimination, when to use the human ability to discern, and when to have blind faith. That may not necessarily sound practical. Uh, See, you have to have this. You have to use the power of discrimination. Blind faith. First of all, there's nothing like blind faith. You will not have blind faith. That's very foolish. For example, you don't know what's in front of this window. It's absolutely pitch dark. You're not going to jump there. No way you're going to jump. Even if you later on tomorrow morning you find that you're just 1 feet there, if you jumped out of it. There's once which you had given a story about a man who had gone mountain climbing and he had tried himself, and suddenly the it gave way. The ice on which he was there, he gave way. Then kept on wondering what is to be done, and he was hanging from that, holding on to that rope to which he was bound, and he was very injured. Then he prayed to God, "Oh God, please help me." So God said, "Okay, you jump." This fellow was suspicious. He didn't jump. Later on, it was found that had he jumped, it was just 4 feet from where he was hanging. He would have landed safely, and from there he could have walked home. But it was pitch dark, could not see anything. So blind faith कभी होता नहीं है. You'll have some idea, something to guide you, somebody to telling you something. That is now that kind of trust in anybody else is not really the only way. The only person you can really trust is divinity. Divinity is always for you, and the divinity is not some external person. The divinity is within you. If you have developed that power of uh, of speaking to your divinity, or listening to your voice of consciousness, etc., then that divinity is the one which will guide you every time, infallingly. So that you can trust. Nothing else you can really trust. And in fact, that you must trust. Only thing is you do not know when that is working, or what time, or when the ego is working. The ego in the mind is very clever, and it make you think that as if it is the self or the divinity within you, which is uh, which is prompting you. So use your discrimination. In almost every case, you must use your discrimination. If you are absolutely unable to use your discrimination, then yes, you rely upon God. But what happens is that when you feel that you're asking God, you're not really asking yourself, because the divinity which is there within you has been masked by your ego. And that ego will come forward and give you a decision or guide you, and it convince you also that all this is coming from your divinity. So yes, you use your discrimination to the best of your ability. That is the best thing that can be done.